All right, so the NFL draft is almost here, and, if you're a football fan at all, you've got to be wondering what the Bears are going to do with that number 10 pick.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity for them to, make some real change
Russ,
in.
it could completely change the look of their team. And, we've been digging into some of the expert analysis out there, and there's this one YouTube video that really breaks down the Bears' options. And, we thought it'd be cool to kind of walk through some of those key takeaways, especially when it comes to their 10th pick.
Right, because there's so much speculation about who they might go after and why.
Exactly. And one name that keeps coming up that we thought was super interesting is Tyler Warren, the tight end.
Oh yeah, Warren is he's an interesting prospect for sure.
So let's get into that.
Yeah.
So what really stood out to us was just how many analysts were on board with the Bears taking Warren at number 10. Like Mel Kiper Jr., for example, he was all in on it.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it's not just about filling a need at tight end. It's more about Warren's versatility.
Right. It's not just about him being a traditional tight end. The analysts were really highlighting his ability to play all over the field, as a receiver, as a blocker, even potentially taking some snaps in the backfield. It's like he could be a real weapon for them.
Yeah, one analyst even said something like Warren could be everything you need as a receiver, blocker, runner, like the total package.
And they were saying that Caleb Williams would love having a target like that, someone who can do it all.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Having a versatile tight end like that would make Williams' life so much easier.
And it's not like they'd be ignoring other needs either. The analysts also talked about the Bears' later picks at 39 and 41 and how they could use those to target other areas, like maybe bringing in a defensive lineman from Ole Miss or a running back like Travion Henderson from Ohio State.
Yeah, so it's not like they'd be putting all their eggs in one basket with Warren. They'd still have opportunities to address other needs.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The analysts actually talked about the Bears potentially building their offense around a two tight end formation, with Warren and Cole Kmet.
Oh, wow. Like a modern-day Patriots kind of situation.
No, exactly. And they made a really interesting point. They said that only a couple of other teams, the Raiders, who just drafted Brock Bowers, and the Cardinals, with Trey McBride already there, have tight end situations that might make them think twice about taking Warren if he's available.
So basically they're saying the Bears are in a unique position to grab a top tight end talent without it being redundant.
Right, because they already have Kmet, who's a very solid player, so it's not like they're desperate for a tight end. But adding Warren could really take their offense to another level.
Makes you think about how much the two tight end offense is making a comeback.
Yeah, it does. And a lot of that potential comes down to Warren's skill set and what he can bring to the table right away. And there was this real sense from the analysts that you shouldn't overthink this pick. One of them even predicted Warren would have a strong week one performance. Like, he's ready to contribute immediately.
Yeah, I mean 700 yards after the catch last season. That's not a fluke. That tells you he's a playmaker.
For sure. And they talked about how difficult he is to tackle. They used words like ferocity and power and even shake to describe him.
Sounds like a running back trapped in a tight end's body.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And one of the analysts even said Warren is his second favorite player in the entire draft, only behind Travis Hunter.
Wow, that's high praise.
And the player comparisons they were making were really interesting. They talked about Trey McBride and how both he and Warren excel at gaining yards after the catch and working the middle of the field.
Which is so valuable in today's NFL. Those tight ends who can create mismatches and make plays after the catch are so dangerous.
Right. And they contrasted that with how another tight end, Loveland, was used. It sounded like he was less involved in those one-on-one situations where Warren seems to thrive.
Interesting. So maybe Warren is more of a pure receiver at the tight end position.
Maybe. They even used the phrase absolute freak show to describe him at one point. And they talked about a specific game where he was just dominant, even though the defense was clearly focused on him. He still took over the game. And he played multiple positions in that game, too.
So he's not just a one-trick pony. He can adapt and make an impact wherever he lines up.
Right. And their final verdict was pretty clear. If Warren is available at pick number 10, the Bears should absolutely draft him. They even talked about how a 12 personnel approach with one quarterback, one running back, and two tight ends on the field could give the Bears so much flexibility.
Yeah, you could really get creative with formations and play calling with that kind of personnel.
For sure. So that's kind of the Tyler Warren picture. But the analysis also shifted gears a bit and talked about the Bears offseason program under their new head coach, Ben Johnson.
Oh, right, because coaching is just as important as the players you have.
Exactly. And we've been hearing good things from players like Tremaine Edmonds and even Caleb Williams about the energy and confidence that Johnson is bringing to the team.
I heard Williams is really buying into what Johnson is doing.
Yeah, it sounds like they have a good connection. And Williams even compared his relationship with Johnson to the one he had with Lincoln Riley, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, if Johnson can get the same kind of production out of Williams that he got out of Jared Goff, that would be huge for the Bears.
No doubt. So you can see how having a versatile weapon like Warren could be a huge boost for Williams as he develops in this new system.
Absolutely. It would give him a reliable target and someone who can create mismatches all over the field.
Now, to give you a sense of what's happening with other teams around the league, the analysis also touched on a few other potential storylines. The Tennessee Titans, for example, they're obviously looking for a quarterback.
Yeah, they need to find their franchise guy.
And Cam Ward's name came up as a possibility, but the analysts stressed that whoever they draft, they need to build a strong team around him. They can't just rely on the quarterback to do everything.
Right. They need to give him the tools to succeed.
Then there's the Indianapolis Colts. They have the 14th pick, and they're reportedly looking to add some serious firepower at tight end. And Colston Loveland from Michigan was mentioned as a strong possibility.
Loveland, yeah, he's a good one. He was heavily involved in the passing game at Michigan, even with some inconsistent quarterback play.
Right. So, he has the potential to be a real difference maker in the NFL.
Yeah.
And one analyst even compared him to Sam Laporta, which is high praise.
Yeah, Laporte is a stud. So that comparison definitely speaks volumes about Loveland's potential.
And finally, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have a new offensive coordinator in Liam Cohen, and they're looking to give Trevor Lawrence more support in the passing game.
Yeah, they need to surround Lawrence with some playmakers.
They specifically talked about finding a receiver who can work the middle of the field, and they mentioned guys like Cooper Kupp and Chris Godwin as examples.
That's the kind of receiver who can really make a quarterback's life easier. Someone who can consistently move the chains and open up the rest of the offense.
Exactly. And they brought up Xavier Legette, a receiver who could be a late first-round pick as a potential target for the Jaguars.
Legit. Yeah, I've heard good things about him. He could be a steal for someone in the later rounds.
And the analysts also touched on the Jaguars' need to improve on defense. They mentioned Mason Graham, a defensive lineman from Michigan, as a potential fit at pick number 5.
Graham, yeah, he's a disruptive force. He could really help solidify their defensive front.
So bringing it all back to the Chicago Bears and that 10th pick, the main takeaway from this analysis is that Tyler Warren is a very real possibility and even a highly recommended pick for them.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you consider his versatility and the potential impact he could have on their offense, especially for Caleb Williams.
And the idea of them building a dynamic 2 tight end offense with Warren and Kmet is pretty exciting. Especially with those later picks, they have to address other needs.
Right. It could be a really transformative draft for them.
And the other team needs, we talked about, the tight ends quarterback situation, the Colts tight end search, and the Jaguars' focus on supporting Lawrence. Those all give you a sense of the bigger picture heading into the draft.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
So as we get closer to the draft, think about this. How much could a dynamic tight end like Tyler Warren change the game in the NFL? I mean, could we be seeing a shift towards more 2 tight end sets and more creative offensive schemes?
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. The tight end position is evolving, and guys like Warren are at the forefront of that evolution.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Absolutely. This draft is going to be wild.
All right, that's going to do it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Catch you next time.
See ya.